LoveLore Library. Chapter 939. Mu Ling was beaten up v. Brother Ling. She looked helplessly and anxiously at Mu Ling. Mu Ling was busy thinking about how to solve this problem. How could he still have time to care about Chen Qingyan? This time, Mu Ling's indifference and ignorance made Chen Qingyan feel like her body had plummeted into an ice valley, leaving her alone in the cold. Ha! Gu Shi smiled, scornfully. It turns out that the Mu family is so shameless. Being able to be here today is really an eye-opener. Not to mention the other people, even Mu Qingyin did not expect that his brother would do something like that. How could he have mistreated Sui in order to please a concubine? Didn't he feel guilty? Master! Mu Huan's distressed voice filled with grief fluttered toward Hai Rong, and tears covered her face. It was all done by my parents. I have no idea about it at all. Why are you casting me away for something that I did not do? What Mu Huan was unable to fully comprehend was that the mentorship between her and her master for many years could not be compared to Nan Sui, as her parents claimed before. And how could you accept me as your disciple for her sake? Obviously it's my talent, enough. Hai Rong looked cold and snorted coldly. Mu Huan, I gave you a chance. Have you forgotten how you have answered my question a few days ago? I didn't know, I really didn't know. She shook her head and stepped back a few steps. Chen Qingyan's eyes brightened, she gritted her teeth and said, Grandmaster Hai Rong, everything is Brother Ling's and my fault. Huaner is innocent. She doesn't know anything. No matter what happened, Huaner must be protected first. Hai Rong had been with her for many years, so it was impossible that there were no feelings between them at all. As long as Mu Huan was not connected to this incident, she could still be Hai Rong's disciple. Hai Rong shook his head in disappointment. Mu Huan has done everything possible to prevent me from meeting Sui. Do you really think I couldn't feel it? Chen Qingyan, am not foolish to such an extent. What's more, why did I accept Mu Huan as a disciple in the first place? Don't you understand? Without Sui, I would never have accepted any disciples at all. Chen Qingyan went stiff, she clenched her fists. This was the only way she could suppress her inner jealousy. Me for extra chapters. She was jealous of Nan Sui. Why could she enjoy love and care from so many people despite not doing anything? The old master was like this. The same went for Mu Qingyin and Hai Ring as well. On the other hand, she had been putting in so much effort but she still could not fully replace Nan Sui. Master! Mu Huan cried and fell to her knees near Hai Rong's feet. She seemed desperate and pitiful. Please don't leave me. I promise that I will always listen to you. I really know my faults now. I really know my faults. I will practice hard and study medicine. I won't let you down. She did not want her face and dignity anymore. She only knew that she could not allow Hai Rong to leave her. This was her only master. In the past few years, she had developed a sense of dependency on him, not as a father but much greater than a father, yet her master was disowning her. Besides, the current Mu family could not survive without him. Qin Feier stood awkwardly not far away from the scene. Before tonight, Mu Huan was still an arrogant person with a fierce aura. In the blink of an eye, she had become such a desperate and pitiful person. She raised up her head and her eyes fell on Sui. She felt guilty at this moment. What if, during her first meeting with Sui, she did not find trouble with Feng Ruqing? Perhaps the ending would have been different. Chapter 940. Mu Ling was beaten up. Sui would definitely have had a good impression about her and allowed her to be Nan Xian's woman. Even if Nan Xian was a lecherous man, then, as long as she could marry him, the Qin family would be somehow related to Hai Rong. Perhaps Hai Rong would be able to treat her illness, and she would no longer need to depend on Chainer to be her drug primer. Moreover, Hai Rong had the same cultivation level as Gu Shi. With his support, the Qin family could be on equal standings with the chief manor master, and his father would no longer be oppressed by them. Suddenly, Qin Feier's gaze fell on Feng Ruqing's face, a light flashed through her beautiful eyes. She bit her lower lip, subconsciously. If Feng Ruqing was willing to forgive her, maybe, Suyi would be able to accept her again. In the quiet banquet hall, only Mu Huan was crying. Hai Rong looked down at Mu Huan, who was kneeling in front of him. No matter how hard you practice, you have always been proud of your own strength without knowing that there are many other talented people in the world. Because I had believed in your father and mother's words, I have used up all of my spirit herbs to cultivate you until you have your current strength now. Mu Huan stopped crying. She raised her head and stared at the old face in front of her. Master, don't call me master. Hai Rong sneered. Haven't I spent a lot of precious spirit herbs on you all these years? If the same thing happened to any young man in this room, they would definitely have achieved more than you have now, and the funny thing is, how dare you call yourself a genius? These two Mu family members were such a waste. Mu Huan was luckier than Mu Shi. With Hai Rong's cultivation, he had used all his spirit herbs to cultivate Mu Huan until she was the person she was today. Read more chapter on novel full. Although Mu Shi was also cultivated by the Mu family and Chen Qingyan had also fed him with a lot of spirit herbs, Mu Huan possessed Hai Rong's whole collection of spirit herbs, among which were gifted by many strong warriors to him. After consuming so many precious spirit herbs, which resulted in her current strength, what kind of genius was she like? Me for extra chapters. No, this is not true. Mu Huan shook her head in denial and stepped backward. Master, this is not true. I am indeed a genius. A lot of people have praised me that way. Compared to her disciple title being stripped off by her master, she felt more disappointed and distressed when her beloved master denied her hard work and achievement. The funniest thing was, had she really obtained her current strength due to the spirit herbs? She was not Mu Shi. What she had achieved today was solely due to her own efforts. What has Suyi achieved? Nobody could deny all her hard work and efforts. Hai Rong shook his head. There was no need for him to reason with Mu Huan anymore because she could not accept the reality. Without saying any more, he turned to look at Suyi. I have taken back whatever I had given to Mu Huan today. Little girl Suyi, are you satisfied with the way I have handled this matter? Suyi looked helpless and speechless. I am no longer that little girl. Now, I have become a mother and will be a grandmother soon. Stop calling me little girl. It makes me look bad. Ha ha ha, Suyi, you do have good taste. This Feng Ruqing not only has immense talent, but she also has a good and bubbly personality. Apart from her medical skills, I think she is the only one who can heal the old master to complete recovery. Mu Huan's face darkened and was flushed. Even before tonight, her master had never praised her for her talent, but he had complimented Feng Ruqing this time. Chapter 941, Mu Ling was beaten up 7. Besides, Feng Ruqing was so arrogant. What made her look so charming and well-loved by everyone? Was Master actually blind? However, when Mu Huan recalled Hai Rong's attitude toward her just now, she swallowed all the words she intended to say. At this moment, her master was still annoyed at her father and mother's behavior. Now was obviously not the right timing to open her mouth again. Once her master's anger was subdued, she would use her coquettish act to persuade him again. After all, her master would eventually forgive her behavior. Grandmaster Hai Rong, Mu Qingyin greeted him elegantly with a smile. It's getting late. The banquet is starting soon. Grandmaster Hai Rong, please have a seat. All right. Hai Rong chuckled. He really should have left before this, but Suyi's return and his fondness toward Feng Ruqing had gotten him to decide to stay back. Mu Ling watched Hai Rong take a seat next to Sui. His throat was a bit hoarse and dry when he wanted to explain something. However, there were too many people at the table and those stares were too obvious and disturbing, so he could not explain himself at all. The banquet was finally able to officially begin. The maids brought in the delicious food from outside the hall. The guests were staring and sneering disrespectfully at the Mu family, making them feel like they were being stabbed by countless needles. The cowards who bent with the wind wished to hide like a turtle hiding its head. They were worried that Feng Ruqing would remember them. By the way, Feng Ruqing paused, and asked with a big smile, "Who said just now that I have threatened them to do something evil to the Mu family?" The faces of the group of people who were still worried just now froze and the air around them became so thin that they almost fainted. Read more chapter on novel full. Luoli, did you jot down those names? Luoli waved the small notebook in her hand. I remember it all. Well, give this list to Feng Lan. From now on, they have been blacklisted by Paramount. The herbal dish was selling like hotcakes, and many people purposely went to try it. Once blacklisted, they would not even get to taste the herbal dish, let alone the spirit wine. Now, those people started to feel the fear. Their eyes were begging for mercy. One more thing, Feng Ruqing did not allow the people to open their mouths before continuing. Since you claim that I have threatened you, then I want each of you to slap Mu Ling and Chen Qingyan 100 times. Mu Ling's eyes were fuming with rage. He shouted in anger, Feng Ruqing. Me for extra chapters. At this moment, he had totally forgotten about his early mission. He was raging. He was Nan Xian's father. How could she treat him like this? Besides, Qingyan was so weak and delicate. How could she bear it? Feng Ruqing pursed her lips and turned to look at Nan Xian. Nan Xian, he scolded me. Na Xian looked up slowly. He stared at Mu Ling with a murderous look. Yes. Mu Ling saw the murderous intent from his own son's eyes. Both of his clenched fists trembled. What a good son. He would not hesitate to kill his father just for a woman. Mu Ling had a feeling that Nan Xian would kill him for sure if Feng Ruqing were to request it. 200 slaps. Do not miss a single slap, said Nan Xian, emotionlessly. He purposely glanced at that group of people as he spoke. They knew that their strength was no match to Mu Ling's. Their bodies turned icy cold under Nan Xian's cold stare. It seemed as if a giant hand was choking their necks and they were going to die soon. If they did not obey Nan Xian's request, perhaps Nan Xian might even kill them instantly. Chapter 942, Mu Ling was beaten up via this situation had left them with no option at all. Everyone had an urge to cry now. They were willing to do it earlier because of the temptation of spirit wine. Moreover, Gu Shi had started it first and they also had Deity's Gate support. However, what did they have now? Feng Ruqing had the intention to punish them. They had a feeling that if they really did something against Mu Ling, they would definitely be pursued by the Mu family forever. On the other hand, Nan Xian would definitely kill them first if they refused to obey his request. After much deliberation, they decided to hit first. Maybe they still had a chance to escape later, but they might have no chance at all if they did not do it now. Master Mu Ling, please don't blame us. A middle-aged man raised his hand timidly. Don't you dare. Mu Ling was so annoyed that he was about to crack, his eyes were burning with anger. Just as Mu Ling was about to hit out, 3 forces hit him from 3 different directions, making him stiff and unable to move. He was stunned as he turned his head, looking at the sources of the 3 hits. Gu Shi, Hai Rong, and Nan Xian. Slap. Someone slapped his face. The slap was loud and stung Mu Ling's face, making him gasp. His eyes were burning with anger. Read more chapter on novel full, How Dare You Touch Me. The whole Mu family will make sure that you die without a proper burial. The middle-aged man cried, I didn't do it too. It's their fault. If I have refused, I would have been dead by now. Another slap landed on his face. Mu Ling became very angry. This was a huge humiliation. He had never been humiliated like this before. All these people must be punished, he would never let any one of them go easily. What are you still waiting for? Feng Ruqing glanced at the rest of the people. There is also Qin Qingyan here. You should go one by one, take turns to slap them. Oh yes, everyone must slap them 200 times. If I find out that any one of you has missed one slap, you will have to start all over again. The Mu family took a deep, gasping breath. This woman was really brutal and vicious. How could both faces withstand being hit repeatedly for 200 times? The members of the Mu family who had previously offended Feng Ruqing stepped back subconsciously. They were afraid that Feng Ruqing might do the same to them. They also realized that Feng Ruqing was much more atrocious than Sui. If this had happened in the past, Qin Feier would never have let Feng Ruqing behave as she wished. Although she still could not bear this sight, people would normally choose to protect themselves. She did teach Luo Li a lesson before because Luo Li obeyed her. Chapter 943, Mu Ling was beaten up. She had said long ago that she would make these people pay for what they had done to Sui sooner or later. Feng Ru Qing. Mu Ling gritted his teeth. He hoped that Feng Ruqing would treat his illness, but he was blinded by his anger right now, he only able to see that Feng Ruqing was hurting the woman he loved dearly. Qing Yan was so weak and kind. How could she withstand such a torment? Feng Ruqing was purposely treating her this way. Feng Ruqing sneered. Why did you call out your father's name? Cough. Sui spat out the water in her mouth from the sudden remark. She took out a handkerchief and wiped her mouth calmly. She reminded Feng Ruqing with a soft smile, Qinger, do mind your language. Mu Ling's father is still sitting here with us. Oh, why did you call out your ancestor's name? Sui was speechless. She would rather let Feng Ruqing call herself Mu Ling's father. She thought this would sound better than the latter. The latter one made her a few generations more senior to the old master, Puff. Mu Ling was slapped until he vomited blood out. His eyes were blazing with anger, staring at Feng Ruqing angrily. The glare seemed to want to break her into pieces. Nan Xian pulled Feng Ruqing into his embrace and shot Mu Ling a cold glance. However, Feng Ruqing did not care about Mu Ling's death stare. She gently pushed Nan Xian away and walked toward Mu Ling slowly, looking down at him condescendingly. Read more chapter on novel full, I know you can't wait to kill me. It's fine, I like the way you loathe me, but you can do nothing to kill me. If you want to seek revenge, you can just retaliate against those who beat you. It's them who have obeyed my threat and are not afraid of you. Mu Ling gritted his teeth. He knew that Feng Ruqing was telling the truth. Moreover, Nan Xian's strength did surprise Mu Ling, not to mention that Gu Shi and Hai Rong were still there to protect Feng Ruqing. Even if he hated the woman, he could only suppress his anger and end up with internal injuries, as there was nothing he could do to her. Feng Ruqing, you are so vicious. Don't you fear that Nan Xian will abandon you? Feng Ruqing turned her head to look at Nan Xian and blinked. Will you abandon me? Never. Nan Xian ruffled Feng Ruqing's hair gently and smiled affectionately. Because I will be more vicious than you. To what extent was this affection? Qin Feier could see it clearly between Nan Xian and Feng Ruqing. Me for extra chapters. The deep sorrow she felt was obvious on her beautiful but pale face. She smiled dejectedly. It was a sad, bitter smile. In her perspective, the genuine smile on the guy's face was like a sharp sword mercilessly stabbing into her heart. Mu Ling swallowed the blood in his mouth. His cold and murderous stare was like a furious lion's. He stared at those people who had slapped Chen Qingyan. Not to mention the fact that it was 200 slaps from each person, they could barely bear it even if it was only 200 slaps from one person. In fact, his beloved Qingyan was weak and fragile. Mu Shi stood still. Although he had soft and gentle features, he stared at Nan Xian and Feng Ruqing coldly, his thoughts unfathomable. On the other hand, Mu Huan was not as ruthless as Mu Shi. She suddenly ran to kneel in front of Hai Rong and pleaded to him with her strained voice and tears. "Master, I beg you. Please save my parents." She was selfish in nature, but Mu Ling and Chen Qingyan were her parents after all. She could not just sit back and watch them endure such suffering. Hai Rong closed his aging eyes in disappointment. "I can't interfere in this matter. Don't call me master anymore. I have given you a chance but you didn't cherish it. I can't tolerate a treacherous person with such a malicious heart." Mu Huan stiffly got up from the ground. Her jealousy started to creep into her consciousness and erode her mind. She gradually grew mad. Chapter 944, Mu Ling was beaten up a malicious heart. Haha, no matter how vicious she was, she still could not be compared to Sui and Feng Ruqing's viciousness. However, in Master's heart, she was the woman with a malicious heart. "I understand, but I believe that in the future, you will eventually regret it." Since now Hai Rong had decided to expel her from his legacy regardless of their close relationship in the past, why should she keep clinging to him? She had given up her dignity, put her pride aside, and begged him desperately, but it was useless. So, why should she let go of her final strain of self-esteem? She, Mu Huan, was still a woman with pride. A long time had passed, the slapping had finally stopped. Both Mu Ling and Chen Qingyan's faces had become swollen like pig heads, and they could even see red blood vessels on their faces that looked terrifying. Chen Qingyan kept her head down in tears and she looked like a poor woman who had been bullied. Meanwhile, Mu Ling glanced at the group of people with his eyes filled with murderous intent. "I, Mu Ling, shall take revenge for today's incident." His slurred speech was a little unclear, but everyone could understand what he was trying to express. Read more chapter on novel full. Mu Ling held Chen Qingyan's hand tightly, walked out of the banquet hall without looking back, and disappeared into the dark night. Mu Shi and Mu Huan quickly followed behind them, leaving the banquet hall. Sister-in-law. Mu Qingyan's heart was a little uncomfortable, especially toward the end. Mu Ling still defended Chen Qingyan. Had he ever pondered, what were the consequences of his action toward Sui? It was him who had begged Sui to return home in the first place, but now he had abandoned her again. The worst thing was, he had even robbed Sui's favor for the sake of a concubine's daughter. This was ridiculous. Shao Qingyin. Sui raised her hand and touched Mu Qingyan's handsome face. "It's been a long time since I last saw you. You've grown so much. Don't call me sister-in-law anymore in the future. Just call me by my name. No, you are my sister-in-law forever. Even though he doesn't acknowledge it, our Mu family only recognizes your position and it will always be yours." Mu Qingyin stated it clearly without any doubt in his voice. His face was glowing with affirmation. As long as he was still the second young master of the Mu family, he would regard her as his sister-in-law for the rest of his life. Unless he too left the Mu family, he was worried that, if Sui lost this identity, she would have nothing to do with the Mu family anymore. Me for extra chapters. Sui gave a small smile. "Shao Qingyin, you don't have to worry too much. I have decided to come back this time for the sake of meeting you and the old master. If it weren't for both of you, I'm afraid that Nan Xian and I will never come back to Mu Manor again. Mu Qingjian's heart felt warm. A tender smile crept across his handsome face. Despite the fact that Mu Qingyin had already grown up into an adult, in Suyi's eyes, he was still the young innocent boy from 20 years ago. The eldest sister-in-law was acting like a mother. Mu Qingyin had no mother. To him, Suyi was his mother. Sister-in-law, are you going to leave this time? Mu Qingjian's eyes were hopeful, and he looked at Suyi unblinkingly. Suyi hesitated. She looked at Mu Qingyin first before turning to look at the old master who behaved like a child now before switching her gaze to Feng Ruqing. With pleading in her eyes, she was hoping that Feng Ruqing could make the decision for her. Feng Ruqing smiled joyfully. Suyi, if you are reluctant to leave, we can just stay here until the old master has recovered, then we will make a move. Stay here. The elders and the rest of the Mu family were on the verge of exploding. These people had managed to turn the Mu family upside down in just one night. Now, this woman wanted to move in as well. Would she not burn down Mu Manor within a few days? Chapter 945. I want to stay in the Mu family. No way. I don't. Bang! Before the old man could finish his words, a blow was dealt on his chest, sending him flying before finally landing on the stage. The old man's head tilted before he lost consciousness. Everyone in the Mu family could not help but sharply suck in cold air and turn their heads around dazedly. Their eyes were fixed upon the young master in a snowy white robe. You look so ethereal and otherworldly. Is it good to strike a blow so often? Nan Xian looked away, his expression was of nonchalance. His sleeves were billowing in the breeze. Qinger, go ahead. What Nan Xian actually meant was that Feng Ruqing could do whatever she wanted and Nan Xian would take care of whoever going against her. If any of you disagree, you could just tell us. Don't worry, I am a thoughtful and considerate person. I am open to objection. Feng Ruqing broke into a smile. The people of the Mu family stepped back subconsciously and flattered Feng Ruqing by smiling at her. No, absolutely not. We are overjoyed that you all are back to the Mu family. Naturally, we have no objection. Young Lady Feng, could you get young Master Nan Xian to put down his sword? I am frightened. Don't you ever forget that you are the one who has invited us to stay in the Mu family. I have asked all of you to be frank with us. Feng Ruqing smiled even more widely. Young Lady Feng, you are overthinking. We are telling the truth. Oh yeah, could you get young Master Nan Xian to take a step back and never move forward? I am really scared. Read more chapter on novel full, but I am afraid that some people might put me in trouble. I cannot stand hearing people talking bad about me behind my back. Feng Ru narrowed her eyes. You can do whatever you desire if that happens. Previously, the people of the Mu family would never have given a second thought to Feng Ruqing. However, there were too many powerful forces backing her. Hence, they could not help but compromise out of fear. Even Nan Xian's strength had frightened them. The people of the Mu family who had always been looking down on others now slumped to the ground with a smile plastered on their wrinkled faces. Suyi, let's stay in the Mu family then. Feng Ruqing grinned. Why would Feng Ruqing do that? Suyi frowned. Suyi knew Feng Ruqing very well. Feng Ruqing would never want to stay in this toxic place. Me for extra chapters. Suddenly, Suyi's heart skipped a beat. She quickly turned her head around to look at the old master whose mouth was filled with food. Does it has anything to do with the old master's health? Xiao Qing wants to stay here because of the old master? Suyi's eyes darkened. If that was the case, the old master's health must have something to do with the people of the Mu family. Although Mu Ling was selfish and foolish, the old master was his father. He would never do anything to harm the old master. Hence, there was only one person left, Qin Yen. If what Ci thought was right, then Qin Yen was truly vicious. Young Lady Feng, I have mistaken the relationship between Chainer and you as he is so close with you. I sincerely apologize to you. Please forgive me. With a smile plastered on her delicate face, Qin Fei walked slowly toward Feng Riching with a cup of wine in her hands. Qin Fei stared earnestly in Feng Riching's face. Her eyes sparkled brilliantly. Chapter 946, I want to stay in the Mu family. What Qin Fei did had actually put Feng Riching in an awkward predicament. If Feng Riching did not forgive Qin Fei, she was truly wicked and evil. However, none of the people present said anything. They had learned a great lesson from the things that had happened just now. No one dared to comment on anything associated with Feng Riching. Young Lady Feng. Qin Fei pursed her lips as she stared dazedly at Feng Riching. Young Lady Feng, please accept my sincere apologies. I have wronged you as I heard that you married someone else before. You're right. I was married before. Feng Riching smiled brightly. Stunned, Qin Fei looked up at Feng Riching. She had never thought that Feng Riching would admit this in public. What is wrong with that? At least, I am not pretentious and will never go after someone else's betrothed, Feng Riching said with smiling eyes. I didn't. Qin Fei's face was ghastly pale. Tears broke free from her eyes. Oh, then why do you keep hounding Nancian? Feng Riching grinned. Her smiling face was like a demon's. Seeing this, Qin Fei could not help but take a few steps backward. Young Master Nancian, I didn't hound you, I really didn't. Qin Fei hurriedly turned to look at Nancian. It was true that Qin Fei was here to apologize to Feng Riching. She had even thought of making Feng Riching her bosom friend. Qin Fei only wanted to be Nancian's concubine. She had never thought of taking Nancian away from Feng Riching. What was wrong with that? What Qing'er said is always right, Nancian said as put his arm around Feng Riching, nonchalantly. Standing dazed, Qin Fei lowered her head to hide her sorrow. She then bowed deeply to Feng Riching. Young Lady Feng, it is true that I am here to apologize to you. I know nothing about your past. I only got to know it from other people. I have wronged you and I truly have no idea what else I can do so that you will forgive me. However, I will try my best to clear the misunderstanding between us. If you still don't forgive me in the end, perhaps, I didn't do it well enough. As soon as Qin Fei finished her words, she straightened up. Her face took on a ghastly expression. She looked so fragile as if she would slump to the ground anytime soon. However, she stood resolutely just like a pine tree standing against the cold wind. Read more chapter on novel Full Me for extra chapters. Before Qin Fei turned around to leave, she glimpsed at Nancian. His face was still emotionless. He was not in the slightest bit feeling sad for her. Originally, Qin Fei had thought that she could stay strong, but her heart was dripping blood as if it was torn apart by a ruthless hand. Just as Qin Fei had taken a few steps forward, her knees bent and she collapsed to the ground. Currently, her pale face was covered in blood. The people present only noticed that Qin Fei, who had always been elegant and noble, had fallen down and her face landing on the ground that was covered in the blood that Mu Ling had spat earlier. Simply no one noticed that Nancian had quietly drawn his hand back. Fei. Flying into great panic, when you rushed over to help Qin Fei up. Her heart was broken. Qin Fei's face was sickly pale. Her pride had taken a large blow. She was so ashamed of herself that she wanted to hide in a hole or far into the corners of the hole. At this moment, Qin Fei could vaguely recall that something had fallen on her calf just now and she had lost her balance after that. Lost in wonder, Qin Fei turned her head dazedly and set her eyes on Feng Ruking's face. She could not help but wonder. Chapter 947. I want to stay in the Mu family. Is she the one who did this? It was true that jealousy was the most dangerous emotion on earth. Qin Fei only took a glance at Nan Xian, but Feng Ruqing had actually broken Qin Fei's pride in public out of revenge. Qin Fei could not help but bite back her grievance. She knew that not only would no one believe her even if she told everyone what Feng Ruqing had done to her, but she would also even get the Qin family in trouble. Hence, Qin Fei did not say a word. She merely smiled and got up with Wen Ye's help. Father, Mother, it's nothing. I have lost my balance and fallen down by accident. I am exhausted. I need to rest. Let's go back. All right. Wen Ye's eyes darkened. She knew that Qin Fei had truly fallen for Nan Xian. When you would do anything to make Qin Fei's dream come true. Manor Master Mu, Young Lady Sui, Second Young Manor Master, and Young Master Nan Xian, my daughter is not feeling well. It's time for me to take my leave. Qin Li cupped his hand in respect. He purposely ignored Feng Ruqing. As soon as Qin Li finished his words, he turned to leave. Just as Qin Li was about to leave, he felt something hit him on his calf. As Qin Li was not as weak as Qin Fei, he did not fall down. However, his foot trembled and suddenly, he was down on one knee. Qin Li's face darkened. He quickly got up and left without uttering a word. He did not even ask who dealt him a blow. For Qin Li, his current situation was more embarrassing than falling on his face. No matter who had done that to him, Qin Li had lost his face. He did not want to stay there any longer. He was not capable of dealing with the stinging comments and humiliation. Qin Fei must have thought that I have done that to her from the way she looks at me. Feng Ruqing shrugged. I did that. Nan Xian had made Feng Ruqing a scapegoat again. Well, Qin Li, read more chapter on novel full, he disrespected you. Nan Xian could feel that Qin Li had paid no heed to Feng Ruqing just now. Hence, he was just giving Qin Li a tick off. Hearing this, Feng Ruqing did not know why she could feel a spark of warmth flowing into her heart. You homewrecker. Burning with rage, Gui bit her scarf. Her eyes were full of resentment. No way. Nan Xian had actually claimed all the credit. I must do that before Nan Xian could react next time. I will be the one who takes all the credit then. After all those people had left, the feast went on as planned. Everyone enjoyed the delicacies and dared not say anything about what happened earlier. The banquet hall was peacefully silent. Me for extra chapters. Sister-in-law, it's great that you all could stay here to keep my father company. I will task the servant to get a room ready for you. Mu Qingyin smiled. As the old master had not seen Sui for years, sure enough, he could not bear to part with her. Second uncle, could you take me and Nan Xian around the manor? Feng Ruqing asked, after a while. Mu Qingyin did not say anything. He merely smiled and nodded. Qing'er, did you find anything wrong? Nan Xian frowned as he asked. Only Nan Xian, who stood next to Feng Ruqing, noticed that something was wrong with her. I am not sure. There are so many things that I am not sure about. I need to walk around here. All right, I will go with you. Nan Xian held on to Feng Ruqing's hand gently. Just go ahead. No matter what you have found, I will handle it. Just do whatever you want. In the courtyard of the Mu family, Tan Shuangshuang was wandering anxiously in the manor. She was a nobody in the Mu family. Although she was pregnant, she was not invited to the feast. Chapter 948. I want to stay in the Mu family IV. This was a good opportunity for Tan Shuangshuang to improve her position in the Mu family. However, the entrance to the feast was strictly guarded. She did not even have a chance to break into it. Tan Shuangshuang gritted her teeth hard as she walked out of the chamber with mincing steps. Just as she left the chamber, many servants could be seen bustling around the manor. What has happened? Tan Shuangshuang asked one of the servants. Seeing Tan Shuangshuang, the servant was a little impatient, her eyes were filled with disdain. However, the servant did not blatantly show her emotion. Manor Master and young lady Qing Yan got injured. We are busy. As soon as the servant finished her words, she walked to the main chamber with a pail of water in her hands. Mu Ling and Qing Yan got injured. Isn't it the old master's birthday today? How could the two of them get injured? Tan Shuangshuang frowned in bewilderment. Tan Shuangshuang quickly made up her mind and rushed toward the main chamber. Naturally, she was stopped at the entrance as Mu Ling did not want to see her. Tan Shuangshuang could not help but turn to leave. Suddenly, a familiar figure came into sight. Tan Shuangshuang paused, hastily. Feng Ruqing. Why is Feng Ruqing walking together with the Manor Master and second Manor Master? Why is the State Preceptor, Nan Xian, here? Tan Shuangshuang's heart twitched with anger, her eyes were blazing with fury. Suddenly, something crossed her mind. Her heart skipped a beat. She clenched her fists tightly. No way. Nan Xian is the State Preceptor of Luyun Kingdom. If he is part of the Mu family, Mu Nanxian, why did he go to Luyun Kingdom to be the State Preceptor? Read more chapter on novel full. Other than the reason that came to her mind, Tan Shuangshuang could not figure out why Nan Xian was here. Tan Shuangshuang loosened her fists as she walked up to Feng Ruqing with a faint smile on her face. Feng Ruqing. A familiar voice sounded. Feng Ruqing turned her head sideways only to see Tan Shuangshuang. At this time, Feng Ruqing was still calm and very much at ease. Feng Ruqing, I have never thought that I would meet you so soon, me for extra chapters. Simply no one knew if it was because of the fact that Nan Xian was here that Tan Shuangshuang was no longer as haughty as she was when she met Feng Ruqing a few days before. Tan Shuangshuang smiled gently. Her pregnant belly was more obvious now. Before Feng Ruqing could respond, Tan Shuangshuang turned to look at Nan Xian. State Preceptor, it's been a long while since we met. Are you here to attend the old master's birthday feast? Tan Shuangshuang asked, probingly. A lot of ladies liked Nan Xian in Luyun Kingdom. However, Tan Shuangshuang was an exception. Everyone in this realm knew that Nan Xian was so ethereal and otherworldly, placing him beyond anybody's reach. Hence, many ladies could not help holding back their desire. Although Tan Shuangshuang did not fall for Nan Xian, she was stunned by such a devastatingly charming young master. It was only natural that many ladies out there were dying for him. Shao Qing, Nan Xian subconsciously called out to the azure snake. The next second, he suddenly recalled that the azure snake had left him a long time ago and had not returned since. Qinger, who is she? Nan Xian looked at Feng Ruqing. She is Mu Ling's concubine. Feng Ruqing was dumbfounded. Nan Xian was terribly bad at recognizing faces. I see, Nan Xian said, blandly. He did not even spare a second glance at Tan Shuangshuang. Is the State Preceptor part of the Mu family, Mu Nanxian? Why does Feng Ruqing address Mu Ling by his name? Tan Shuangshuang was dumbstruck by Feng Ruqing's words. Chapter 949, I want to stay in the Mu family. Feng Ruqing is so disrespectful toward Mu Ling. Is she not afraid of being banished from the Mu family? State Preceptor, the name of Mu Ling's eldest son is also Nan Xian. What a coincidence. Are you Mu Ling's eldest son, Mu Nanxian? Tan Shuangshuang faked a smile. Nan Xian stared at Tan Shuangshuang coldly. The one thing he hated the most was when someone mentioned him as being part of the Mu family. Young Lady Shao Qing and Nan Xian, please ignore her. Let's continue walking. Mu Qingjian's gaze swept past Tan Shuangshuang and fell on Feng Ruqing and Nan Xian. A faint smile could be seen playing on his lips. All right, second uncle. Second uncle. Tan Shuangshuang's facial expression shifted a little. Feng Ruqing had addressed Mu Ling by his name, but she addressed Mu Qingyin as second uncle. Apparently, the state preceptor was Mu Nanxian. By the time Tan Shuangshuang came back to her senses, Feng Ruqing had left together with Mu Qingyin and Nan Xian. Tan Shuangshuang was the only one left, standing rooted to the spot. Her eyes were still fixed upon Feng Ruqing's back. Her face took on a ghastly expression. In Luoyuan Kingdom, Feng Ruqing was the princess who stood aloof from the masses. Tan Shuangshuang had always been bowing down to her. Now that Tan Shuangshuang had reached Tianshan Manor after going through so much trouble, she still had to bow down to Feng Ruqing. Tan Shuangshuang was Mu Ling's wife, but Feng Ruqing had actually hooked up with the young master of the Mu family. No way. Feng Ruqing was married to Lu Yuchen before this. Mu Ling would never accept Feng Ruqing to be his daughter-in-law. Even if she could step into the Mu family, she would only be a concubine, just like me. Tan Shuangshuang shook her head. Once Tan Shuangshuang gave birth to a son, her status in the Mu family would be upgraded. Moreover, if her son was talented, she could definitely replace Qin Qingyan. On top of that, even if Tan Shuangshuang was merely a concubine, she was Nan Xian's mother. Her child was the young master of the Mu family. In other words, Tan Shuangshuang would become Feng Ruqing's mother-in-law. Tan Shuangshuang had a higher rank than Feng Ruqing in the Mu family. Who did Feng Ruqing think she was? Read more chapter on novel full by then. Feng Ruqing must do whatever Tan Shuangshuang had instructed her to. Even if Tan Shuangshuang wanted Feng Ruqing to serve her drinks, Feng Ruqing must not refuse. Thinking of this, Tan Shuangshuang was overjoyed. The corners of her lips curved into a smile. As Mu Ling had treated Qin Qingyan so well, Tan Shuangshuang had totally forgotten about the difference between the son of a concubine and the principal wife. She had always thought that there was no difference between a concubine and the principal wife in the Mu family. The same went for their children. However, little did Tan Shuangshuang know, Mu Ling only cared for Qin Qingyan. Although Tan Shuangshuang was a concubine, like Qin Qingyan, she was no match for Qin Qingyan. Outside the courtyard, peach trees were in full bloom. Me for extra chapters. This is where you and the old master stay. Feng Ruqing paused as she frowned. I have moved here when you left as I don't want to stay in the main manor. Some time ago, my father moved in here and refused to leave since. Mu Qingyin nodded slightly. You have poor health. The old master's health is even worse. This place is not suitable for both of you. You may want to pack your stuff and move out of here. Stunned, Mu Qingyin stared at Feng Ruqing's dark face. Shock crept into his eyes. Why? This place is too deserted and shady. It's not a good place for recuperation. Let's go. I want to take a look at the place where the old master stayed earlier. All right. Mu Qingyin regained his composure and walked forward together with Feng Ruqing. The main manor was much brighter and spacious than the courtyard that Mu Qingyin was staying in. Just as Feng Ruqing stepped into the main manor, her face darkened, hiding a storm brewing within her. Chapter 950, Spectral Flower Eye. Young Lady Shao Qing, what's wrong with these? Mu Qingyin asked, bewildered. He did not know what had actually happened. Feng Ruqing did not respond. All of a sudden, she took a few steps forward and plucked the flowers from the flower bed. Who sowed these flowers? Chen Qingyan. Mu Qingyan's face darkened a few shades. Chen Qingyan. Second uncle, remove these flowers from the roots by tomorrow. Then, take them to a deserted place and burn them. Feng Ruqing sneered. Seeing Feng Ruqing's reaction, something crossed Mu Qingyan's mind. Young Lady Xiao Qin, what's wrong with these flowers? Both Grandmaster Qian Kun and Grandmaster Hai Rong were here previously, but they could not figure out what kind of flowers are these. Grandmaster Qian Kun had even brought one of it back to study. In the end, he found that it is nothing but an ordinary spirit herb. Feng Ruqing's face was cold and dark. These spirit herbs should have gone extinct years ago. Back then, all the kingdoms in Xiangyu mainland were not as vulnerable as they were today. Yunchuan Empire had once dominated the entire Xiangyu mainland. These flowers were brought in by the emperor of the Yunchuan Empire. These flowers had nearly triggered horrifying devastation to this realm. As the emperor of Yunchuan Empire feared that he would go down in history as a byword of infamy, he had burned all these flowers and decreed to wipe off these flowers from the historical records. The official who took charge of the historical records had since wiped off the name and detail of these flowers from the records to ensure that the emperor's reputation was well protected. If the future generation happened to get hold of the flower or if there was any form of destruction because of this, it had nothing to do with Yunchuan Empire. Since the flower was not available in the historical records, how did Feng Ruqing knew about this? That was because it was all jotted down in the book that Fu Qin had given to her. Back then, the Divine Herbs sect was the only force on a par with Yunchuan Empire. Read more chapter on novel full. No one dared to say anything about these flowers as they did not want to mess with the emperor of Yunchuan Empire. However, the Divine Herbs sect was not bothered by Yunchuan Empire and had recorded details of this species of flower in a book. Hence, Feng Ruqing could recognize the flowers from the moment she saw them, spectral flower. The seeds of these flowers must be sown on a mass grave in order to absorb the dead spiritual qi. It would only bloom after many years. Me for extra chapters. Once the plant bloomed, it would never wither. The only thing that could ruin the spectral flower was fire. Also, cut down all the trees here tomorrow. Don't move in here until all the qi has dispersed. What's wrong with all these? Nan Xian put his arm around Feng Ruqing's waist. These trees are called Thousand Vines Orchid. If one walked near the trees after eating the bloody lotus lingji, the deadly aura emanated from the trees could cause drowsiness and loss of consciousness. Moreover, the victim's memory would gradually worsen over time and start to behave like a child until he dies. Grandmaster Qian Kun has shown me the spirit herbs that the old master consumed before. The bloody lotus lingji is part of the spirit herbs that the old master takes. However, the whole process takes a very long time. The stronger the person is, the higher his resistance to the deadly aura. Even if his brain function has deteriorated, his strength could still stop part of the deadly aura. Hence, the old master is still alive after so many years. Hearing this, Mu Qingyan's face darkened. He clenched his fists tightly, his breathing became rapid and shallow. His eyes were blazing with murderous intent. Chen Qingyan. She has been harming the old master. Hence, here comes the spectral flowers. If I am not mistaken, these spectral flowers are newly sown, Feng Ruqing continued. You are right. Chen Qingyan has brought these flowers back to the manor before the old master's strength declined. She said that the aura emanated from these flowers could calm the old master's emotion. Since these flowers are spirit herbs and they are also very beautiful, we just leave them here. Suddenly, Mu Qingyan looked up at Feng Ruqing as if something had crossed his mind. Chapter 951, spectral flower 2-inch. These spectral flowers had absorbed the spiritual chi from the old master's dantian. Hence, his strength has depleted over time. Enriching reached out to pluck a spectral flower. Why did these flowers not affect us? Mu Qingyin asked after staying silent for a while. It's because these spectral flowers fall asleep during the daytime. They would only wake up at night. Did Qin Qingyan prohibit anyone from visiting the old master at night? She claims that the old master is in bad health. Hence, she does not allow anyone to visit him at night. She has even tasked some guards to guard the old master's chamber. Mu Qingyan's face grew even darker. These flowers are planted at the door of the old master's chamber. Naturally, they are absorbing spiritual chi from the old master. They are now full after having taken in the old master's spiritual chi and need some time for digestion. That is why you all are still safe and sound. Enriching sneered. The spectral flowers needed time for digestion. It was just like humans who stop eating when they had had enough food. Chen Qingyan's mother had killed my mother. Now, Chen Qingyan wants to harm my father, too. It is no wonder that my father's health has been declining day after day. He has moved to my courtyard as Chen Qingyan kept pestering him and he could not stand her. Hearing this, Mu Qingyin exploded with fury. Ever since my father has moved into my courtyard, his health has greatly improved. However, we have never thought about this. We only thought that his health improved as he has gotten rid of Chen Qingyan. It was a pity that Mu Qingyan's brother, Mu Ling, had always thought that Chen Qingyan was innocent, just a harmless little bunny, and loved her with all his heart. He cared for her so much that he was so afraid that he would hurt her. On the contrary, Sui had treated Mu Ling so well, but he mercilessly left her. No matter what, neither Thousand Vines orchid nor spectral flower should exist in this realm. Enriching's eyes were icy cold. The spectral flowers were extremely dreadful. Back then, these spectral flowers had nearly wiped out the whole empire. Qian Kun and Hai Rong had no idea about the spectral flower. Naturally, they knew nothing about it. They could feel the spiritual chi of the spectral flower as the flower had absorbed so much of the old master's spiritual chi. The spiritual chi had concealed the dreadful aura of the flower. Shao Qin, since Grandmaster Qian Kun has taken one stalk of the spectral flower away with him, would he? How did he do it? Read more chapter on novel full. He has put it into a spirit herb box. That should be fine. The spectral flower can never live without soil. Grandmaster Qian Kun should be all right. Otherwise, he would have already noticed that there was something wrong with the spectral flower. Enriching shook her head. Since Grandmaster Qian Kun's strength was not affected, he had only studied the spectral flower and did not sow it in the soil. Me for extra chapters. Fortunately, Grandmaster Qian Kun was the only one who had plucked these flowers and not any lady out there. The spectral flower was extremely stunning, like a blood-red rose. Many ladies out there who could not resist the temptation would have plucked the flower and sowed it in their gardens. Mu Qingyin heaved a sigh of relief. He did not want anyone to get hurt because of the old master. Thinking of the things that Chen Qingyan had done, Mu Qingyan's eyes turned colder. A glimmer of vicious light sparkled in his eyes. I must let my brother know about this. You can do so, but I am sure that he will not trust you. Enriching smiled, blandly. I will get him to come here at night. He will know what has actually happened when his strength depletes. Mu Qingyan's face darkened. Chapter 952, Spectral Flower 3. Chen Qingyan might tell Mu Ling that she knew nothing about these spectral flowers. And that she has sown these flowers as they are spirit herbs and pleasant to the eyes. She could also add that she was deceived into sowing these flowers. Everything she has done, she did for the old master. So, do you think Mu Ling would trust you or Chen Qingyan? Naturally, Mu Qingyan knew that Mu Ling would trust Chen Qingyan. Second uncle, actually, we don't have to prove to the people of the Mu family. Whether or not Mu Ling trusts us has nothing to do with us. When I am annoyed, I would vent my anger on them. When I lose my temper, I would beat them up a little every day and beat them hard every 10 days. Even if they escape from the Mu family, I will take them back and whack them. Feng Ruqing walked slowly toward Mu Qingyan. Are you a demon? Dumbfounded, Mu Qingyan's face twitched slightly. Nan Xian's wife was far more vicious than anyone of the Mu family. However, she could never make Mu Ling and Chen Qingyan suffer if she was not vicious. Second uncle, I would never hold back on my grievances. If anyone wrongs me, I will fight back no matter who he is. The same goes for all of you. You don't have to hold back any grievances. You could reason with them. Feng Ruqing grinned. Mu Ling and Chen Qingyan had always been treating me with courtesy and respect. However, I could not bear seeing the way Chen Qingyan treats sister-in-law. Hence, I have always gone against her. Now that, Mu Qingyan shook his head. Mu Qingyan paused for a while, his eyes were blazing with murderous intent. She has done something so terrible to my father. I will never let her off so easily. Even if you do kill Chen Qingyan, what's next? Mu Ling still loves her, he will never forget her for the rest of his life. On the contrary, he would only hate you. Feng Ruqing smiled, faintly. Dumbstruck by Feng Ruqing's words, Mu Qingyan looked up at her. Although Mu Qingyan barely knew Feng Ruqing, he could feel that Feng Ruqing would not relent until she had had her way. Not only has Mu Ling harmed me, but he has also done harm to Sui and Nan Xian. I will never let him off so easily. I don't want him to miss Chen Qingyan for his whole life. He must not die peacefully and must live a life full of remorse, pain, and agony. Feng Ruqing broke into a smile. Moreover, I have said that neither Thousand Vines orchid nor spectral flower should exist in this realm. Someone must have given Chen Qingyan these things. Hence, Chen Qingyan must not die before we find the mastermind behind this. Second uncle, you can do whatever you want to Chen Qingyan after that, me for extra chapters. Read more chapter on novel full at this time. Feng Ruqing recalled the things that the old lady of the Luo family had said. Her old friend was forced to go to a place where there was no way out. If Feng Ruqing was not mistaken, both Thousand Vines orchid and spectral flower were brought out from that place. Hence, Feng Ruqing must find out the mastermind behind this. All right. Mu Qingyan took a deep breath as he suppressed the murderous intent in his heart. I will tell Sui about this. You may want to get some people here to get rid of all these plants tomorrow. Fortunately, no one has ever been here at night. Otherwise, these flowers would have taken in their spiritual qi too. Oh yeah, second uncle. There is a servant in the place where I have stayed before this. Her name is Xiaoya. Could you please send someone to bring her here? Don't worry, I will do that. It's getting late. These spectral flowers have been starving for quite some time. If we are still here by the time they wake, our spiritual qi would become their food. Chapter 954, Spectral Flower v Sui was unmoved as she looked down at Chen Qingyan. Chen Qingyan panicked and gritted her teeth. She kneeled before Sui in front of everyone. Sister Sui, these are all my hard work. Please do not destroy them. I have spent so much money on them and had kneeled for a few days to get these spirit herbs from others. These spirit herbs are good for the old master's condition. Please don't ruin all my efforts. I beg you. Her weeping voice could be heard in the whole courtyard. Chen Qingyan saw that Sui did not respond to her. She then crawled to Feng Ruqing crying loudly. Lady Feng, please help me persuade Sister Sui. If you still have not vented all of your anger last night, you can continue to hit me. However, I don't know what the old master has done wrong that has made you want to destroy these spirit herbs. People should always be grateful. The old master has treated Sister Sui so well. How could she do this? Feng Ruqing lowered her eyes and stared at Qin Qingyan coldly. Are you good to old Master Mu or do you want to harm him? You know it well. Qin Qingyan was shocked and bit hard on her lower lip. What did Feng Ruqing know? No. Impossible. That person once said that no one could recognize the thousand vines orchid and the spectral flower in this world. Even Qian Kun and Hai Rong also could not recognize it, let alone a little girl. She did this just to intentionally retaliate against her. Feng Ru Qing. Mu Ling heard Feng Ruqing's words as soon as Mu Ling rushed over. He was so angry that he had hurried to Qin Qingyan, who was kneeling on the ground, and helped her up. A pair of angry eyes stared hard at Feng Ruqing. Of course, Mu Ling's face was like a mule's at this moment. Only his mouth, nose, and eyes were exposed. Enough. When will you stop hurting Qingyan? She is always thinking about others, but you are still always trying to attack her. And also ruin all her efforts. Don't you forget, if you marry Nan Xian, she will be your mother. It is utterly absurd to disrespect your elders. Feng Ruqing smiled. I don't care if it is utterly absurd. I believe that my state preceptor will love me just the way I am, me for extra chapters. Nan Xian slightly smiled. This feeling of Feng Ruqing relying on him was so good, Feng Ruqing. Mu Ling was so angry that his chest was about to explode. He gritted his teeth and said, "You are unfaithful, unrighteous, and disobedient, you should." Mu Ling's voice disappeared when his eyes met with Nan Xian's eyes. He was afraid. Was Mu Ling afraid of his son? Mu Ling had always been afraid of Nan Xian. Otherwise, he would not have to go to him and always sent his servants to find Nan Xian. Nonetheless, he always felt that Nan Xian could not do anything to him since he was Nan Xian's father, let alone embarrassing him in public. It was not until last night that he realized he was thinking too much. Nan Xian would hit him. Therefore, Mu Ling swallowed all his words when his eyes met Nan Xian's. He was afraid that if he kept talking, Nan Xian would not only hit him but also Qingyan too. What Qingyan has said is also true. Mu Ling's throat trembled, but he willed himself to speak. His voice was much lower. These are all spirit herbs that are good for the old master's condition. She has kneeled and begged many people to get them for the old master. I know you don't like Qingyan, but you can't let Qingyan's efforts be wasted. Chapter 955. Mu Ling is timid. Mu Ling felt hurt and his eyes were full of regret seeing the flowers being dropped onto the ground. He had looked forward to the old master's recovery more than anyone. Although he was in charge of the Mu family now, he might not be anymore if the old master was fully recovered. However, it was obvious that Nan Xian would not return to the Mu family. If the old master did not recover, the Mu family would inevitably suffer. Only the old master could suppress those who were skittish. Mu Ling understood that the clan would either prosper or decline as one. He wanted to take charge of the Mu family. However, he knew that his current strength could not bring the Mu family back to its glory like before, only the old master could do it. If the Mu family was eventually annexed by other forces, what significance did he have as the young master of the Mu family? Anyway, Mu Qingyin did not like power. Furthermore, Nan Xian was not interested in taking charge of the Mu family. The Mu family would be his sooner or later. Why should he fight now? Moreover, Mu Ling did not dare to let people realize that the old master's strength was declining in order not to let people know the Mu family situation. It did not mean that he did not care about old Master Mew's life. Otherwise, he would not have been looking for spirit herbs everywhere for many years to cure the old man. It was just that the situation of the Mew family was not looking so well. Furthermore, the chief manor had rejected the marriage. Rome was unwilling to allow the Mew family to do any business using his name. Hence, he could only think of another way to make the Mew family better. The old master was his father. He wanted the old master to recover as soon as possible. However, he was too naive and believed in Chen Qingyan too much. He listened to whatever Chen Qingyan said and tried his best to convince the old master to accept Chen Qingyan. So much so that it had caused so many issues later. Sui saw that Mu Ling was not that arrogant anymore after he had gone through yesterday's events. She could not help but sneer. So, even he could be afraid at times, she thought that Mu Ling had always been stubborn and was fearless. Mu Ling was not afraid of the old master because the old master had not hit him like this, but it was obvious that Feng Ruqing and Nan Xian would hit him. What if Nan Xian's temper was out of control? Mu Ling believed that Nan Xian would do it. So, he was timid in front of Nan Xian and did not even dare to scold him out loud. Chen Qingyan felt the change in Mu Ling. She bit her lower lip and tears floated in her eyes. Brother Ling, I didn't want to harm the old master. The old master is your father and also my father. I can't possibly hurt him. Mu Ling was in pain. Qingyan, I believe you. See, I know that there is a lot of contradictions between you and Qingyan, but she is unlikely to harm the old master. There must be misunderstanding. He looked at Feng Ruqing subconsciously when he said that. Me for extra chapters. He seemed to be telling Sui that this was all Feng Ruqing's fault. Qingyan was not a vicious person. If it had been in the past, Mu Ling would have reprimanded Feng Ruqing, but he could not say a word because of Nan Xian's glare. Feng Ruqing glanced at Mu Ling and turned to look at Nan Xian. State Preceptor, he wants to slander me for provoking the alienation between Sui and Qingyan. Mu Ling was speechless. What did he say? He said nothing. Why did she blame him? Feng Ruqing, you are. Mu Ling could feel a gaze with murderous intent directed at him. He stopped speaking abruptly again. He pondered for a moment before he continued, I didn't say those words. Everyone present can prove that. Nan Xian, you can't treat me like this just because of her words. Chapter 956, Mu Ling is timid too. I am your father. He did not dare to say it out loud. He feared that Nan Xian would take action. He was slandering me in his heart. Mu Ling's face turned pale. He was indeed skeptical that Feng Ruqing was provoking the alienation. How could this woman know what he was thinking? Did his eyes reveal the truth just now? He must pay more attention to his behavior in front of Feng Ruqing next time. He must not let this woman have the opportunity to offend him. Nan Xian. Mu Ling ignored Feng Ruqing and continued to look at Nan Xian. Did you believe in what she said? Nan Xian said calmly, I believe in whatever she said. Mu Ling remained silent. Moreover, you did not respect her. Nan Xian's expression was clear and light. Mu Ling's face stiffened. He was the father and also an elder. Why should she respect Feng Ruqing? Should it not be the other way around? When he was looking at Nan Xian this time, he finally realized the feeling of his father, the old master, when he defended Qingyan in front of him. But Feng Ruqing was a vicious person. How could she be compared to Qingyan? Nan Xian was blinded by love to such a degree. Even his biological father was being treated like this for her sake. Let's talk about this matter objectively, Nan Xian. Qingyan has put in a lot of effort to find and plant these spirit herbs for the old master's illness. Aren't you overdoing it a little by treating her like this? Somehow, Mu Ling's last sentence was filled with grievances. He wanted to be angry but did not dare to act against Nan Xian. Yes, he dared not. Every human being appreciated their own lives. Mu Ling was also afraid of death. He was even more afraid to die in Nan Xian's hands. Though Nan Xian would be charged for killing his father, Mu Ling would be ashamed of being killed by his son. He could not afford to lose face like that. Me for extra chapters. Chinger. Mu Qingyin looked at Feng Ruqing. It's better to tell him everything even if he doesn't believe it. I don't want you to be criticized for provoking others. There was no provocation needed for Sui and Qingyan, they had always been like water and fire since the beginning. However, Mu Qingyin did not want Mu Ling to slander her to protect Qin Qingyan. He. Mu Ling sneered. He did not have much forbearance when he was facing Mu Qingyin. He said sarcastically, "Second brother, you have always been in the Mu family. You must have seen how well Qingyan has treated the old master. Would you still want to tell me that Qingyan wanted to poison the old master? Let me tell you, I will never believe it." Mu Qing knew his answer long ago. He just looked on calmly without any emotion. Mu Ling would die in Nan Xian and Qinger's hands sooner or later if he continued to be like this. Feng Ruqing's eyes were cold. Did you not know that second uncle's health is poor? You blame him so much. If anything happens to him, the old master will kill you before we even do anything. Mu Ling was speechless. Before Feng Ruqing and Nan Xian returned, he was the eldest in the family. No one dared to disobey him apart from the old master who would occasionally vent out on him. His status had changed since the two of them came to the Mu family. Normally, he could reprimand Mu Qingyin whenever he wanted to. Now this woman would always jump at everything he said. Let's not forget, he was the young master of the Mu family. He was the one in charge now. He would make this woman kneel on the ground and beg for mercy sooner or later. Mu Ling felt better after whispering these to himself. She then turned to look at Feng Ruqing. What are you going to tell me? Chapter 957, Mu Ling is timid 3. Oh, there's nothing to say. Feng Ruqing shrugged. It's just that second uncle has shown me around here yesterday. I have seen the spirit herbs here in some books before. Mu Ling was in doubt. Did she see them in just some books when even the two great masters failed to recognize them? For example, this thousand vines orchid. Qin Qingyan panicked and started to feel fear creep into her body when she heard Feng Ruqing mention the thousand vines orchid. She clenched her trembling fists tightly. She became more and more frightened. She knew, she really knew. How was this possible? How did Feng Ruqing know? If the thousand vines orchid is mixed with the bloody lotus lingji, it can cause people to be unconscious and lethargic until the brain dies. Luckily, the old master's strength was relatively strong. He was able to use his spiritual force to block a large part of the medicinal effect. If you want to make him brain dead, it would take a long time. The old butler immediately heard Feng Ruqing's words when he had just run in from outside the courtyard. He was stunned at first and soon regained his composure. He was so angry that his eyes were about to burst out. There was bloody lotus lingji in the medicine that the old master drank. No wonder the old master would be drowsy every time he drank it. So, it was you, Qin Qingyan. The old butler was the only person who had always supported the old master and had always stayed near him in the Mu family. He was extremely loyal to the old master. After all, his life was saved by the old master. The old master had brought him back to the Mu family and made him his butler. Mu Ling also knew the loyalty and importance of the old butler to the old master. Therefore, he still allowed the old butler to do his job and did not remove him from his post for so many years. What nonsense are you talking about? Mu Ling was furious. He could not endure someone falsely accusing Qin Qinyan. He had promised Qin Qinyan that he would be responsible for her all his life and would never allow anyone to bully her when he had married her back then. If he could not protect her now, how could he call himself a man? Boom! Nan Xian flipped his sleeves and suddenly, Mu Ling's chest was hit by a strong spiritual force. Mu Ling took a few steps back and blood rushed out of his throat. Feng Ruqing smiled and continued, as for the thousand vines orchid, it will cause the person to be sleepy in the day and be awake at midnight. It will also absorb the person's spiritual qi and cause his strength to decline. Me for extra chapters. Chapter 958, Mu Ling is timid ivy otherwise, how did Yunchuan Kingdom almost perish? Chen Qingjian's face turned pale. She shook her head. She just wanted to kill the old master. This old man had treated her so badly. She wanted him to die immediately a long time ago so that no one could bully her anymore. But she had never thought about harming others. Even if the entire Tianshan manor perished, she could not escape this time. Mu Ling just wanted to swear. But then he held back. What are you talking about? This is impossible. Feng Ruqing smiled a little. She knew that Mu Ling would not believe it. She also understood that Mu Ling would not believe that Qin Yan was going to murder the old master even if he came over in the middle of the night. However, it did not matter. She just wanted to let the truth be known. When the secret was finally out in the future, she would make these two people live a miserable life. We don't have to wait until midnight. Nan Xian looked at those trembling spectral flowers calmly. Because they are awake, everyone was frightened by Nan Xian's words. Especially the servants who were just plucking the flowers just now. They quickly rushed out of the courtyard. They were afraid that those flowers would absorb their spiritual qi. Feng Ruqing stood next to Nan Xian, unmoving with a smile. She believed in Nan Xian. Thus, she had remained calm from the beginning to the end. Mu Ling turned stiffly and his eyes fell upon those spectral flowers. He might have been dazzled. He even saw a faint light from those spectral flowers. The light was dim and gray with a smolder, which made him shiver and unable to move. Hiss! Suddenly, his spiritual qi flowed out uncontrollably as if there was a big mouth that was constantly devouring the spiritual qi in him. That feeling made Mu Ling even more panicked. He wanted to cry for help, but he could not make any sound as his throat was dry. The old master was sleeping in the middle of the night when those spectral flowers were devouring the spiritual qi in him. Hence, he did not feel any pain or fear. His strength had just declined when he woke up. Me for extra chapters. Therefore, no one had felt the fear that Mu Ling had. The spiritual qi was constantly flowing as smooth as silk out of his body. Mu Ling's strength was originally at Advanced Immortal Warrior tier. He was considered quite strong in Tianshan manor. However, some people had already achieved Advanced Immortal Warrior tier in Tianshan manor. It was not rare. For example, Qin Li of the Qin family and Luo Fei of the Luo family. They both had also achieved Immortal Warrior tier. I happened to be attracted by these flowers when I passed one of the mountains. These flowers were filled with spiritual qi. I thought that they would bring a lot of benefits to a person's body. Hence, I had begged the warrior in the mountains to sell them to me. Everything I have said is true, Brother Ling. You have to believe me. I have never wanted to kill the old master, let alone destroy the Mu family. She yelled loudly, trying to explain for herself. She had almost lost her voice. Mu Ling did not speak. If it was something else, he would have trusted her and forgiven her no matter what it was. However, she had brought a heavy blow to the Mu family this time even if she was careless. This blow was enough to destroy the Mu family. Chen Qingyan looked at Mu Ling's lowered eyes. She then took a few steps back. She suddenly laughed. I understand, Brother Ling. You should be angry since I have brought so much damage to the Mu family due to my stupidity and ignorance. You can rest assured that I will pay the price if I have done something wrong. I just hope that you will treat Huaner and Sierra well. Both of them, like you, are my life. Chapter 960, Mu Ling is timid. 6 Both of them, like you, are my life. After all that had happened, Mu Ling still hesitated after hearing this sentence. He closed his eyes slowly and his face was full of pain. He recalled the past right then. Qingyan was the one who had taken care of him when he was injured. Qingyan was the one who had protected him with her weak body while he was in danger. Just to keep him alive. This woman had always regarded him as more important than herself. Mother. A heartbreaking cry made Mu Ling open his eyes. He suddenly saw a flash of white light. Chen Qingyan was already holding a sword in her hand and was determined to end her life. Don't. The endless pain had caused Mu Ling's face to contort. His eyes were full of fear. He quickly hurried forward and held the sword in Qingyan's hand firmly. Blood flowed down from the palm of his hand. He looked sad as if not feeling any of the pain. Qingyan, what are you doing? He was furious, but he never thought that Qingyan would end her life to make up for her crimes. These were not Qingyan's original intentions. She had made these mistakes because she was deceived by other people. How could he watch her die in front of him? Qingyan was not only his woman but also his savior. Mother. Mu Huan quickly ran to Chen Qingyan. She pulled her to the side and looked at Mu Ling angrily. Father, what did mother do? Why are you forcing her to her death? See, and these people must have said something to father. That was why father had wanted to force mother to her death. Huaner, it's enough. I have done something wrong and I should pay the price. Chen Qingyan smiled bitterly and lowered her eyes. Brother Ling, you don't need to stop me. If it weren't for my stupidity for bringing back the Thousand Vines orchid and the spectral flower, the old master's condition would not have been like this. Your strength would also not have downgraded to lower sky warrior tier, me for extra chapters. Mu Huan's eyes widened. Did mother cause grandfather's strength to decline? On top of that, had father's strength also declined? She gritted her teeth. Father, mother didn't do it on purpose. She did not know that those plants had such an effect. Hence, she is not guilty. You can improve your strength later even if your strength has declined. Do you have to kill her for such little thing? Mother has almost used death to prove her innocence. What else do you want? Mu Ling sobbed. A chuckle interrupted him just as he was about to explain to Mu Huan. Feng Riching smiled as if she had not witnessed the sad scene just now. Her eyes were filled with happiness. Sui, have you heard this sentence before? Sui looked at Feng Riching blankly. What? A person doesn't really leave no matter how many times he creates chaos. If he really wanted to leave, he would have gone quietly. Only then will he be truly gone. Just like Qing Zhu who had run away many times, but he would still return every single time. If it really wanted to run away from home, it would have left silently when no one was around to see it and it would never return again. Similarly, if a person really wanted to commit suicide, she would find a place to end her life quietly. This is how it should be. Not like someone who is pretending to use the sword to cut her neck knowing that someone would stop her. If Chen Qingyan were really sincere, she should have looked for a place to kill herself tonight. I will believe that she is innocent when I see her body tomorrow morning. Chen Qingjian's body stiffened. Her whole body turned cold as if her clothes had been taken off by Feng Ruqing. She felt utterly helpless. Chapter 961, Mu Ling is timid. 7, You ruthless lady. You truly have no conscience. My mother is so pitiful, but you are still provoking her. Mu Huan turned to look at Feng Ruqing. Her eyes were blazing with fury. She is pitiful. Has she lost her arm? Has she been downgraded to Spirit Warrior tier after putting in so much effort to make it to Holy Warrior tier? Whether or not she has deliberately done it, you can't deny the fact that she has harmed the old master. If we let her off just because she cries over the things that she has done, she is pardoned far too easily. The smile on Feng Ruqing's face faded. What else do you want? Mu Huan gritted her teeth hard. 200 strokes of beating with a stick, demote her from a concubine to a night soil carrier. That's all for now, let me think about other punishments. Feng Ruqing, watch your tongue. Burning with rage, Mu Huan snarled. Slap. As soon as Mu Huan finished her words, she was dealt a blow on her face. She spat out a mouthful of blood and a tooth. Her face was red and swollen. Her eyes turned vicious and full of resentment. Mu Huan is just a scumbag. You don't have to do this to her. She does not deserve this. I can do it myself. Feng Ruqing tugged at Nan Xian's arm. Hearing this, Mu Huan's eyes reddened with fury. You slut. You have actually called me a scumbag. All right, Nan Xian said calmly. He waved his sleeve, a sudden strong rush of wind slammed into Mu Huan's face and once again, she spat out a mouthful of blood. I will not turn down your request, but I do whatever I want depending on my mood. I will never sit back and do nothing if someone is rude to you. Nan Xian had been holding back his anger since he was at the feast yesterday because of the things that Feng Ruqing had said. However, he would no longer hold back his anger now. Feng Ruqing stared dazedly at Nan Xian. She could feel that the person Nan Xian was now was more lovable than he used to. Nan Xian, Qingyan is your mother after all. How could you allow Feng Ruqing to do this to Qingyan? Mu Ling said after being silent for a while. Then, just kill her, Nan Xian said nonchalantly. Hearing this, Mu Ling's face stiffened. His hands balled into fists. He had nearly lost his mind, but he suppressed his anger. Me for extra chapters. He could not help but put his hand tightly around Chen Qingjian's waist as if comforting her. In fact, Mu Ling could only comfort Chen Qingyan silently. He dared not to utter a word. If Mu Ling messed with Nan Xian, both he and Chen Qingyan might lose their lives. Nan Xian would not hesitate to do this. Brother Ling, don't worry about me. It is natural that they don't trust me. I know I was wrong. I will accept any punishment with an open heart. However, I don't want to make things difficult for you. Chen Qingyan smiled wryly as she shook her head. As soon as Chen Qingyan finished her words, a dull feeling tugged at Mu Ling's heart. He felt sorry for her and tightened his arm around her. Somehow, he wished that Chen Qingyan was not sensible and tolerant of others' feelings. It made him feel bad. Chen Qingyan had always been considerate and willing to sacrifice herself to restore peace to the Mu family. How could Mu Ling blame her? Take her out now. Just do whatever Qing'er has said. She will be punished with 200 strokes. Si signaled at the servant standing next to her. The servants exchanged glances, but did not move a muscle. After all, Chen Qingyan was the one Mu Ling loved the most. Simply no one dared to hurt Chen Qingyan, not even the slightest bit. Chapter 962, Mu Ling is timid. 8, It seems that my word carries no weight. After all, Chen Qingyan is the lady of the Mu family. Xiao Qingyin, I will leave it to you. Siyi's lips curved into a bland smile. In other words, Siyi was saying that she was no longer part of the Mu family. Hence, she was not capable of summoning the servants of the Mu family. Hearing this, the old butler glared at Chen Qingyan. He had finally calmed down and regained his composure. The lady of the Mu family. The old master has never acknowledged such a vicious and notorious lady as the lady of the Mu family. Lady Siyi, you are the only lady of the Mu family. There is no need to get the second manor master involved. Let me handle this. The old butler had always been representing the old master of the Mu family. Although the old master was mentally unsound, he was still the head of the Mu family. See this lady out. Otherwise, I am going to show you to the door. The Mu family does not need servants who pay no heed to the master's order. In the Mu family, concubines are just of slightly higher status than the servants. Somehow, some people have actually regarded themselves as the master of the Mu family and have made the servants ignorant to the master's order. The old butler smirked. Apparently, some people felt that it was wrong for those who had gained power to oppress the people beneath them. However, these servants were working in the Mu family. Not only did they get paid, but the board and lodging were also provided by the Mu family. Naturally, they must obey the master of the Mu family. It was the same when someone hired a maid in Huaxia. If the maid refused to do the cleaning and cooking even if the employer asked her to do so, the employer might as well sack her. Since these servants have decided to take up the job, they must obey the master's order. Naturally, the Mu family did not want to keep servants who refused to take orders. Hearing this, the servants' faces turned stiff, and they walked toward Chen Qingyan. Chen Qingyan hid the viciousness in her eyes. She took a glimpse at Feng Ruqing and walked out together with the servants. Not long after, the sound of the stick hitting the flesh and heart-wrenching cries could be heard outside the courtyard. Hearing this, Mu Ling's heart was torn apart, dripping with blood. Me for extra chapters. He clenched his fists tightly, his nails dug into his palms. He did not even notice that blood had oozed out between his fingers. Quivering in the wind, the only feeling he felt was the pain emanated from his heart, searing through every pore in his body. The time taken for 200 strokes of beating was neither too long nor too short. Back then, even Tan Shuangshuang could get over it, since Chen Qingyan's strength was stronger than Tan Shuangshuang's. It was nothing for her. However, the pain of each stick falling on her body had made her voice crack. The crying sound could be heard through the Mu family. Feng Ruqing. You are so evil and ruthless. You will pay for everything you have done one day. Mu Huan's eyes reddened as she stared at Feng Ruqing. Her eyes were full of resentment. A trace of blood could be seen hanging at the corner of her lips. As soon as Mu Huan finished her words, a gust of ferocious wind blew. Her body was sent shooting out of the courtyard like an arrow. Lying on the ground, she could not even utter a word. Second uncle, bring her out to collect the night soil. I will only let her off when I feel better. Feng Ruqing grinned as she turned to look at Mu Qingyan. In fact, Feng Ruqing was threatening Chen Qingyan. She wanted to know how long Chen Qingyan could hold herself back. When she could no longer hold back, the mastermind behind all these would come to the light. Chapter 963, Mu Ling is timid. 9, all right, Mu Qingyan said with a bright smile on his graceful face. Only when his eyes met Mu Ling's did his face darken. Brother, I have always thought that you care for the old master. I don't expect you to leave Chen Qingyan. She has done so many things to harm the old master, but you are still defending her. I am so disappointed in you, Mu Qingyan said coldly. Regardless of whether Chen Qingyan was intentional, as long as she had done it, she was at fault. However, Mu Ling had blindly chosen to take Qin Qingjian's side and did not even care about his own father. Thinking of this, Mu Qingjian's heart filled up with resentment. As the saying goes, nobody is perfect. Although Qin Qingyan was wrong, she had been reprimanded and punished for her wrongdoings. Moreover, she accepted the punishment willingly. Since Qin Qingyan had a good attitude to own up to her mistake and she did not harm the old master on purpose, one should not keep picking on her. However, Mu Ling knew that Mu Qingyin disliked Qin Qingyan since the beginning. It was natural that Mu Qingyin was indignant toward her. Moreover, Qin Qingyan had nearly killed his father. Usually, even if Qin Qingyan had made a mistake, Mu Ling would take Qin Qingjian's side and reprimand Mu Qingyin. However, he simply could not bring himself to speak this time around. He merely brushed his sleeve and walked out of the courtyard with his heart full of grievance. Mu Ling was too afraid of offending Nan Xian. However, he was indignant toward Nan Xian. He was indignant toward Sui too because of Nan Xian. He did not even walk close to Sui. Hence, Sui truly enjoyed the peaceful and quiet moment without someone pestering her. Don't forget to uproot all these and burn them. Cut down those trees too. I am exhausted. I need to rest. I will make them suffer again later. Since Feng Ruqing had decided to stay in the Mu family, some people were doomed to suffer. Just as Mu Ling walked out the courtyard, a group of people could be seen pinning Qin Qingyan down to the ground and beating her ruthlessly with a long spiky cane. Seeing this, Mu Ling's face darkened a few shades. He quickly rushed up to one of the servants and grabbed the spiky cane from his hand. He then gave the servant a slap across his face and sent him flying. Feng Ruqing told you to beat her with a stick, but you are actually using this. Mu Ling's eyes reddened. Although the cane was much softer than the stick, it was full of barbs. Each stroke could tear Qin Qingjian's skin. Blood could be seen oozing out from the wounds. It was natural that Qin Qingyan had cried pathetically. Chapter 964. The truth. Back then, seeing Mu Ling burning with fury, the servant took the cane fearfully. After all, it was more horrifying to go against Mu Ling than offending Nan Xian. However, seeing that even Mu Ling feared Nan Xian, what more could the servant do? Hence, the servant continued beating Qin Qingyan forcefully. He did not, even the slightest bit, let her off lightly. Whack! When the cane made contact with Qin Qingjian's back, the pain seared through her body that was covered in cold sweats. Tears broke free from her eyes. Qin Qingyan had purposely cried so pathetically just now. She wanted to get Mu Ling here. Now that Mu Ling was here, Qin Qingyan simply could not do anything. She could not help but bite her lower lip and sank into silence. As she had bitten her lips too hard, there was a piece left dangling. Seeing Qin Qingyan so bold and resolute, Mu Ling's heart was completely shattered. Perhaps he was wrong. Back then, Qin Qingyan did not hesitate to risk her own life and save Mu Ling. Hence, he did not want to let her down and had made her his concubine. However, he had never thought that he had actually put her into an abyss of suffering. If Qin Qingyan had never stepped into the Mu family, she would not have gone through all these struggles. Brother Ling, I am fine. I have never regretted being together with you. I am willing to go through all these torments. Hearing this, Mu Ling could no longer hold back the anger. His anger overtook his fear. He turned to glare at the two people who were walking through the door. His chest heaved with each angry breath. Nan Xian and Feng Ruqing, I have a few words for both of you. Always be kind to one another. God knows what you have done. Evildoers are bound to be punished in the end. Mu Ling did not notice that at this time, a glimmer of vicious light sparkled in Qin Qingjian's eyes. Sui, Nan Xian, and Feng Ruqing. No matter how good you are at playing tricks, and even if Mu Ling is afraid of Nan Xian, I have countless ways to make him lose his mind. Mu Ling and I have been together for years. I know him too well. I know how to make him feel guilty and heartbroken. Even if he knows that I have sowed the spectral flower and thousand vines orchid, he would still side with me. You can never fight with me for the rest of your lives. Are you talking about both you and Chen Qingyan? Feng Ruqing paused and looked sideways at Mu Ling. You don't have to tell me all this. I understand. What goes around comes around. Both of you need to pay for all your wrongdoings. Feng, by the way, be careful of everything that you do. When you move your bowel, the toilet might explode and both of you might fall into the cat hole. When you are eating, you might die from choking. Also, when you make a breakthrough, you might die from being struck by lightning. Me for extra chapters. Standing next to Feng Ruqing, Nan Xian had secretly kept Feng Ruqing's words in his mind. Burning with anger, Mu Ling's face turned red. Feng Ruqing did not even give him a chance to say a word. You don't have to worry about this. Everything that you have said will never happen. If I am wrong for taking concubine, there are simply too many young masters out there who will be screwed for doing the same thing. This is especially true for you. There will be a day of reckoning for what you have done. Feng Ruqing grinned. Mu Ling sank into silence. He knew that he simply could not do anything to Feng Ruqing. Otherwise, Nan Xian would kill him. Moreover, no one in this realm could argue with her. Hence, he said nothing and merely glared at her with his eyes filled with murderous intent. Nan Xian, let's go. I want to visit the old master to see whether he feels better. Feng Ruqing turned to look at Nan Xian. Chapter 965, The Truth Back Then 2 Warning. Please don't eat while reading this chapter. XD The root cause of the old master's illness had been revealed and uprooted. The old master would recover sooner or later. Alright. Nan Xian looked coldly at Mu Ling. When Nan Xian's eyes met Mu Ling's, Mu Ling panicked. Just as Mu Ling was about to say something, he could feel a light wind brush the tip of his nose. He could not help but sneeze. Qingyan, don't worry. I will use all the spirit herbs that I have to treat you and you will get well very soon. Mu Ling squatted down and held tightly onto Chen Qingyan's quivering hands. Chen Qingyan lowered her eyes darkened. She thought that Mu Ling would tell her that he would avenge her at all costs. It turned out that Mu Ling only wanted to heal her wound. However, she was not capable of thinking anything else as the pain all over her body was killing her. She clenched her teeth tightly, tears streamed down her face. Qingyan. Originally, Mu Ling wanted to give Chen Qingyan a few words of comfort, but he suddenly felt the urge to pass wind. As he could not leave Chen Qingyan alone now, he could not help but fart. PPPFFFFFFTTTTTTTT. Mu Ling's face stiffened as he could feel something wet come out from his anus. At the same time, a strong unpleasant smell was in the air. It was so offensive to the nose that the servant who was beating Chen Qingyan had to turn his face. As the saying goes, sometimes, when someone thinks that they are going to fart, but they accidentally poop instead. Hence, Mu Ling quickly rushed toward the toilet. He did not even say a word to Chen Qingyan. Mu Manor was huge. Naturally, there was no lack of toilets. Mu Ling picked a toilet randomly and squatted down. He felt a mild ache in his growling stomach. However, he was immensely relieved after emptying his bowels. It was so refreshing that he had the urge to sing out loud. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. The whole toilet collapsed to the ground, the feces splashed all over Mu Ling's body. If he had not managed to escape in time, he might have fallen into the cat hole. Me for extra chapters. Panicking greatly, all the servants quickly rushed over only to see the manor master of the Mu family, Mu Ling, with his head covered in feces and his eyes were filled with panic. Pfft! Feng Ruqing walked over slowly from behind, grinning. What goes around comes around. I have told you to be careful when you empty your bowels. The day of reckoning has come way too fast. Did you do that? Mu Ling's face darkened as he snarled. I just passed by. Feng Ruqing shrugged. Mu Ling wanted to ask further, but his stomach was growling again. He could not help but grit his teeth and rushed toward another toilet. Simply no one saw that just as Mu Ling left, a ghastly white robe floated after Mu Ling, looking like a ghost. Since then, everyone in the Mu family knew that the things that happened Mu Ling were an act of divine retribution. No matter which toilet he went into, the toilet would collapse. Hence, he had been running around with his head covered in feces, and a strong unpleasant smell lingered in the entire Mu manor for a long while. In the end, he could not help but resort to the chamber pot. However, before he could finish emptying his bowels, the chamber pot exploded. Once again, all the feces in the chamber pot splashed on his body. A small piece of yellow stool could be seen hanging on the corner of his lips. Disgusting. Finally, Mu Ling exploded in fury. He did not even use the chamber pot and simply pooped on the ground so that the stool did not splash on him. Chapter 966, The Truth. Back then Mu Ling did not know what he had eaten. After having diarrhea for 3 days, he was completely exhausted. He quickly took a bath and ate some food. Supposedly, Mu Ling should have lost his appetite after having diarrhea for 3 days. However, he was worn out. He needed to eat something to boost his energy. Just as he took 2 mouthfuls of food, he had accidentally swallowed a bone. The bone was stuck in his throat and had almost choked him to death. In the end, he could not do anything else but use his spiritual qi to drive the bone out of his throat and save his life. Even if there were a variety of delicacies before him, he did not eat any of them. In the end, he got up with the help of a servant. He was extremely weak. Take me to Qingjian's chamber. I want to see her. Mu Ling did not stop rushing to the toilet in the past 3 days. Currently, his chamber was full of stools. As he had not been visiting Qingjian in the past few days, his heart was full of remorse. In the chamber, Qingjian was lying on her bed and could not even move the slightest. Her face was drained of color. Creak. The door was pushed open and a foul smell drifted in the air. It was so offensive to the nose that Qingjian had nearly thrown up. Even though Mu Ling had freshened up, he had been emptying his bowels for the past 3 days. Moreover, his entire body was constantly covered in poop. Naturally, he could hardly get rid of the foul odor. Qingyan. I am not feeling well these past few days. Hence, I couldn't visit you. Mu Ling quickly walked up to Qingyan. He did not notice the scorn and disdain in Qingjian's eyes. The corner of Qingjian's lips lifted slightly, but she did not shake off his hands. I understand. The servant has told me everything. Qingyan, did they simmer spirit herbs for you? Mu Ling stroked Qingjian's hair. Second manor master does not allow them to simmer spirit herbs for me. Qingyan lowered her eyes to hide the sorrow in her eyes. What is Qingyan playing at? He is my brother, don't call him second manor master. Hearing this, Mu Ling was slightly indignant. Me for extra chapters. Brother Ling, I know you care for me, but I am nothing but a concubine. I need to observe the rules in the Mu family. I don't care about status. As long as I have you by my side, that's enough. Qingyan shook her head and smiled wryly. Hearing this, Mu Ling was getting more indignant. Ever since Feng Ruching was here, Mu Qingyin had become so ruthless. Although Mu Qingyin disliked Chen Qingyan before, he would never treat her like this. Qingyan, I am going to get some spirit herbs for you. You just wait for me here. Mu Ling got up and left the chamber. Although Mu Ling had left, the foul smell was still lingering in the chamber. Why? Chen Qingyan lowered her eyes. Her face was contorted in rage. Her eyes were filled with resentment. Her hands were clutching the bedsheet. Chen Qingyan thought that after listening to her words, Mu Ling would avenge her by beating Mu Qingyin up and crippling him. It turned out that Mu Ling only wanted to retrieve the spirit herbs for her. No way. Chen Qingyan had suffered so many injuries. In the end, she had only made Mu Ling feel remorseful and guilty. Chen Qingyan would definitely break the relationship between Mu Ling and everyone in the Mu family. Well, I have plenty of time. Mu Ling can never leave me now. I will definitely make those who lay a hand on me to live a life of misery and suffering. Chen Qingyan loosened her grip on the bedsheet slowly. Her lips curved into a sneer.